Welcome, gorgeous women, to another empowering interview within the Queendom, Women Uplifting Women podcast. I'm your host, Diana Gattej, RTT clinical hypnotherapist and life coach, and today my guest is Mirela Cara, copywriter, event organizer, project manager. She's PR for the Journal of Covasna, and so much more. And she takes active part, she plays an active role in beautiful projects for uplifting women. We're going to get into details on one of them a bit later in today's episode. Mirela, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Today we decided to discuss about something that is quite painful for a lot of us, and we rarely talk about it, we rarely admit it, we rarely ask for help, and that is depression. And we're going to address it from a different perspective, probably than usual. But I think it's important to also know the statistics. So I was reading an article from the World Health Organization around it. And apparently, over 200 million people suffer from it. And it's 50% more common in women than in men. And keep in mind that the statistics don't always show the reality. So the numbers could be a lot bigger because a lot of us keep very quiet about it. Because of various reasons. So, Mirela, I know you have your own experience, your own personal experience with it. If you would like to share something about it and what helped you get out of it.
Yeah, I used to be dealing with depression when I was around the age of 29, 28, 29, something like that. And it lasted until I got 30. I didn't know so much about depression. I mean, I know much more today than I used to know then, but all I could tell you is that I had the feeling that I didn't want to live anymore. I was always sad deep in my side, even if I used to fake when I went out with my friends. I would have been on a very comfortable company. I would laugh, I would make fun, but deep inside of me, there was a grief that I couldn't get rid of.
Wow.
Yes, and I know now that many people, even comedians that we hear about, and other people that are very well placed in society and deal with depression, they have the tendency to hide it. But it's not like you hide it because you are, I mean, in my case, I didn't hide it because I was afraid to show it, or I felt ashamed to. It was just something, I had the impression that it was only me who felt that and who had to deal with it. But the truth is that whenever I was alone in my room, I would think about finding a way to kill myself and just finish with everything, because I used to think in those moments that I'm gonna die someday. So why do I have to go through all this struggle if the end is still going to come to me? Why not finish it now? And I felt aimless, and I felt unsupported, and I knew that if I talked to anybody about it, no one would really understand how I felt, and everyone would come to me to tell me that, come on, this is a bullshit. What is the problem of yours? Stop playing the fool or something. Everything's gonna be fine. And when you are in depression, that's what you don't want to hear, that everything's going to be fine. Because you know that no matter what you try, in your heart, there is a huge grief. And the thing is that after a while, you find, I mean, I'd rather speak for myself. I used to find a certain kind of pleasure in my grief. it was like it made me feel who I was. It made I started to believe that actually I was meant to suffer, to feel hurt, and I didn't try to get rid of it because I got used to it.
Wow, this is so amazing. By the way, those of you who know me, you know that I take notes all the time. So don't you see me playing with the pen and writing something down? It's because I'm very interested, and this gives me a lot of insight for maybe another podcast episode or a program or an article or something else. So that's why I'm writing it all down. This is very, very important because a lot of us, there are crucial ideas that you mentioned. One of it is like, I felt alone. I felt like I was the only one who was going through this. And that's why a lot of us feel so misunderstood. Like, if we suffer from depression or anxiety, these are not so palpable things. I mean, the physical symptoms, yes, they are because they somatize in the body. But how can you explain the pain, the struggle, the emotional emptiness, the fear, the void, the grief, as you said? But so we're under the impression that nobody will understand, especially when people are trying to boost our mood by saying, "Oh, everything is gonna be fine. Oh, that's not real. You're not really having a real problem. That's not a real problem you have." There are people who are dying of starvation or of cancer, and you're
Yeah.
complaining, right? So, which is very
You're beautiful. You're smart. You've got everything you need to have a good life. Why should you be sad? Why should you be
Mhm.
grieving? I mean, your parents are alive. You've got friends. You are
There are people who have nothing.
yes.
Yeah, people who are in hospitals dying from I don't know what disease, which is very, we don't feel validated in our emotions and our suffering and our grief, which makes it harder. And then we take that pleasure of not feeling understood. As you said, we take pleasure in the suffering because somehow it gives us some validation. We're unique. We're under the impression that whatever works for everyone else doesn't work on me. Oh, I've tried everything, which is not really true. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. And you said something else. Let me aimless. Aimless and unsupported. The unsupported ties in beautifully to what we have just covered. But that aimlessness, okay, not having a purpose anymore. How do you get out of it? Because I think that's one of the biggest pains, emotional pains, not having that aim in life anymore. What helped you get navigate through it?
When you are in depression, you have the tendency to spend a lot of time with yourself and to analyze everything that is around you and everything that is inside you. And as I said before, all I thought about was how to find a way to die and to kill myself. But at the same time, I was I always remembered my mother, and I thought if I die, I'm gonna kill her too. Is it right for me to do that to her? Is it fair for me to do that to her? And I am the only child she had, so many times I thought about that. Why did I do that? I mean, why did I say that to myself? Was it because I wasn't really prepared to die? Was it because I was a coward? Was it because I didn't have the courage to do it? Because, all the time when we talk about suiciding, we talk about is it an act of courage or an act of cowardice? So, I think this is the word. So, are you coward or brave when you take your life? So, as I thought about my mom, I started to convince myself day by day that I should do something to pull myself out of that misery that I was in.
Mhm.
I didn't go to a specialist because at that time I didn't know about that. There is a lot of ignorance when it comes to psychologists and this kind of special support that they can give to you. So I fought with my depression by myself, not even knowing that I was depressed. So then I started to analyze what's actually giving me this unsatisfaction that I feel, because I used to feel so unsatisfied by myself. I hated myself. I thought I was the worst human being on the planet. I found myself ugly, stupid, unable to do things, skill lacking, anything. So then I started to analyze what is that's creating this need of mine to feel miserable. And I realized that all the things that made me consider myself as aimless were not the things that I really needed, were the things that society expected from me, and I knew they were. And actually, they didn't, nobody even ever mentioned to me that I am not enough for this society. On the contrary, people showed respect to me and told me nice things. But I used to compare myself and my life and my results until the age of 29 with what other people around me did, or with what I knew I was supposed to do. And I realized I didn't have any of them. But the truth is that many of them were not something that I really wanted. For example, you were supposed to have a good career, you were supposed to have a great salary, you were supposed to have a car, to have a house of your own, to be married, or at least to be in a relationship, and even to have kids. And I didn't have any of them. But actually, I didn't want them in my life. I just thought I had to be responsive to the expectations of people around me. And that was the main mistake I made, and the thing that brought me into the deep depression that I was in.
Wow. And how many times we somehow incorporate and integrate other people's, let's say, expectations or standards, written or not so written standards, into our lives, and end up comparing ourselves for the worst. um, yeah, this is really, really, really powerful. So one exercise for the women out there listening to us, and of course men if they end up listening to this, but since it's women uplifting women, I'm gonna speak for them mostly, is like, yeah, see exactly where you're somehow punishing yourself and where you're putting yourself down and what for.
For
Because
example,
yeah, depression does a lot of that, right? As you said, I thought I was the ugliest. It has a lot of lack of self-worth and lack of self-validation and lack of self-acceptance. So what's the story you're telling yourself about yourself? That's what I would really dive deep into, and you're ready to go into that. Okay, if fear pops up, just remind yourself, I'm safe to look inside, and to look inside me and go really deep and see what's the story you're telling yourself about yourself. What am I telling about my myself, about, okay, the way I look, the way I feel, my skills, my expertise, and everything else, and who do I think I should be and I'm not? Okay, and what part of me enjoys the pain, the suffering, being on my own? That's
yes,
also something that I would recommend.
yes,
Mirela,
but
you wanted to say something, and
yes,
then
I want to say something to you. I want to
Mhm.
you, to the women or men looking, watching this video. For example, let's say you are unsatisfied with the way you look because you don't think you're beautiful. Why don't you look at yourself in the mirror and wonder, what do I mean by I'm not beautiful? Beautiful according to what standards? Who can tell someone is beautiful or not, in, like, generally speaking? Because you may find me amazing, you may think I have a great look, but someone else might think I'm the ugliest woman on earth. So what if I'm ugly? Who says that only beautiful people are allowed to live on this planet or have a nice life? I mean, why is beauty so important? Just because we were directed to think so? By whom? Who are the ones who ask us to be beautiful and good looking? And what is good looking? Because I look a certain way, you look another way, and probably an Indian guy or someone from Africa would look in a different way, and we're still human beings and maybe beautiful or ugly.
There's something that came to my mind right now. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the lady who did this amazing project. It's a big book on beauty around the world, and it's very, I would say it's special, it's unconventional. If maybe we can include the link after this in the description of the episode, because I think it's amazing. That project really is amazing. I've just had goosebumps all over. She included beautiful pictures with women of different races, ages, different parts of the world, and the goosebumps and everything are getting bigger now. Beauty is in each and every one of us, and that's why, the timeless moral values that philosophy and esotericism and everything else tells us about include beauty, truth, justice, but the timeless value of beauty, not beauty that's relative, that it's painted in different social media standards. If you compare the paintings of Rubens, like, I don't know, they might never be beautiful to us nowadays. There's this wonderful lady that I follow, and I actually took a program called Iconic with her, Kathleen Cameron. She has evolved so much. She has a book called Becoming the One, and a podcast called the Manifested Podcast, I think. She's really amazing. She's a woman who's in a plus size body. She has worked a lot on her self image and self concept because she had associated, she always talks about it, how all her life she had struggled to lose weight, thinking that if she loses weight, everything will get solved. She would feel more beautiful, more successful, and a lot of that. And she did lose a lot of weight. Now she looks totally different. She's still in a plus size body, but she has that inner confidence. And the change in her physical body happened because of the change in her self-image and self-concept, and being able to accept herself and love herself exactly the way she is. So I think that's really beautiful, okay? Like, as you said, that's a wonderful exercise. Whose standards am I trying to go by? And what does beauty mean to me, actually?
And what does beauty mean generally? I mean, what's going to be when I'm 80 or when I'm 50? What is that physical beauty that is so important for me when I'm 20 or 25?
To me, beauty is still very important. I look for beauty everywhere. I look for beauty in myself, but it's a different type of beauty, right? And yes, sometimes it can be physical. Like, I love feeling sexy, for example, and telling myself, girl, you're sexy today.
That's something else. Feeling sexy, not feeling beautiful. I mean, women nowadays go through plastic surgeries just to become beautiful according to some standards that, in my point of view, are very stupid. But I have a daughter, and
the standards are very stupid. Okay, so yeah. Okay.
And I have a daughter. She's 7 years old, and all the time when I talk to her about deep things, I find a way to explain that to her so that she could understand better. So one day I gave her 2 boxes. One of them was very, very good looking on the outside. It had nice pictures on it and everything, and the other one was just wooden and unattractive. But inside the unattractive box, I placed some jewelries, and in the nice box, I put some garbage. And I asked her, which one of these 2 boxes would you choose? And she said, of course, I'm going to choose this one because I know what's inside. And I told her, this is what is the most important, what you invest in yourself, because this takes time, patience, and it needs to grow. And once you've got all of that inside of you, it's very easy to paint yourself on the outside. And sometimes you will not even need to do that, because people will notice what is inside, and people are interested in what you've got inside than what you've got out on the outside, what you look like. This is what we can read in our stories, too. I'm sorry, just someone came in.
No problem.
Okay. If you read stories from folk culture, you're gonna, folk literature, you're gonna find Sfunta Wiener, Saint Fried,
Saint Fried, yeah,
who has this game with boxes and with what's inside and outside. So if people go through depression, my advice for them is to just take a breath and start thinking about the surroundings, the context they are in, and realize, is it worth for me to suffer from something that I don't owe to anybody? This is your life, and you live according to your standards. And if your standards annoy other people, this is not your problem. This is their problem.
I love that. I loved the exercise with the box. And by the way, I do believe that it can be both beautiful, both on the outside and on the inside. I'm not a fan of our folk fairy tales because they're very scarcity mindset somehow. I realized that all the fairy tales from Cinderella and everything else is like, or that thing, what was it called? The old man's daughter and the old hag's daughter. Taught us the message was, okay, you shouldn't look for the outside, you should look for the inside, which was, that part is nice, but we forget that it's okay to also want beautiful things and rich things. So I decided that I'm going to write my own stories when I have children, my own children's stories that don't include a prince saving the helpless princess that's asleep, or that's like, like Cinderella. She needs to be really modest and hardworking, and she needs someone to save her. But that's just my personal opinion. But I do love the idea of the outside and the inside being just as important, if not more important. I think that the beauty outside radiates from inside anyway. And the same with confidence, okay? Because we've seen, you mentioned aesthetic surgeries and stuff like that. And the truth is that we're just trying desperately to somehow compensate from a perceived flaw that we see. We don't feel enough as we are. And sometimes it can be physical, but sometimes, as you said, right, we think we lack skills. We keep comparing ourselves to others in our jobs, in our uh, relationships, and so on. And we forget that it all comes from the inside when you're accepting who you are and thinking, as you said, not of what you owe someone else, but what do you owe yourself.
And I think it is it is okay to compare yourself to other people. But when you compare to other people, you have to remember all the time that your DNA is unique, that you resemble people in your family, or you've got some similarities with other people, but the way you are combined is unique. No one in the human history has ever been like you are, and no one in the future will ever be like you are. So yes, compare yourself to the others, just to see what your aspirations are, what you've got in common with other people, and everything.
What's possible for you?
What's possible for you, what your abilities are, what your skills are, because there are so many factors that influence your career, your actions, everything. And if you are not satisfied with what you are, or you think you are on a lower level, do not feel guilty. Do not blame yourself. Just find a way to change that. Find a way to do what you like to do, because what a man can do, another can too. It doesn't mean that you are weaker or less smarter than someone else. It just means that you are at a certain level now, and you've got the possibility to grow and follow the direction of your own evolution. Because let's imagine that between you and us, there is a competition. You want to be like me, or I want to be like you. Maybe we get at the same level someday, but we are still going to be different people.
That's so beautiful. That's true.
I have learned, because I think depression at a certain point is very good for yourself, because it can help you come up with new ideas and new perspectives, and it teaches you some lessons. I am used to finding, what am I supposed to learn out of this experience? And I used to go through this bad experience. It was not an easy experience for me. But when it ended, when I finally came to the end of it, I realized that I was a new person, that I had a new perspective on life, that I didn't even care about other people's expectations, that I could say no, that I didn't care that you were unsatisfied by who I was, by the choices I made. It was my life, and it is still my life nowadays, and I am who I am.
Wow, I love that. I love that. It reminds me of a question that I've probably mentioned before from Reverend Michael Beckwith. He played in the movie The Secret. He has his own, I forgot the name. It's something with A. It definitely starts with A. I'm gonna check it for this beautiful, beautiful company that supports people all over. And he says, what is it? What hidden blessing is in this situation that I can currently not see? Because there's always, as you said, an opportunity for growth to develop, to grow beyond the limitations you previously thought you had. And it's a journey of self-discovery and self-healing. And you can rise so transformed at the end and so inspiring for others. There is also this project that I wanted to invite you to speak a little bit about, because I think it ties in beautifully with what we mentioned and with our self-worth, probably first of all. And that idea that we are alone and are not understood. And the project that I am talking about is the one that you're part of, around breaking the silence. It's not your fault. I would love people to hear more about that, because I'm sure there are women out there struggling on their own, not knowing that there are support opportunities and that they're not alone, actually. So, Mirela.
So we're having a concert on July. We invited Cass Hawkins to sing for us. Cass Hawkins is an artist from UK who had her own history. And I mean, she still has it because it's her past. She went through abuse when she was a kid. She was raped by her uncle, if I remember well the story. And then she went through a toxic marriage. And then she started taking drugs and dealing with alcohol. And then somehow, I don't know all the details, she managed to pull herself out of that misery she was deep in. And now she sings for people in order to give them hope, for people who are abused. And she's going to come to Sfântu Gheorghe, St. George in Covasna County in Romania. And she's going to be also at Brezoi Festival. I think it's her concert there. It's going to be on the 21st of July. And we decided to invite her here because we know that many, 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 many women and kids are abused, and of course men too. They are abused. And the thing is, this is why we named the project Break the Silence Is Not Your Fault, because people who are abused have the tendency to believe that they did something to deserve to be abused. But I want to tell them that there is nothing one human being can do that excuses in any way someone else's abuse on them.
I
No,
love this. I think this is going to be a topic for another interview, honestly, because like so many women out there go through this on their own without breaking the silence because they're afraid of the consequences. They're afraid of that they'll have to deal with it. Okay, now I broke the silence, so now I need to take some action and I'm scared. I'm scared to leave, or I'm scared to for my parents to know or for the society to know because I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want them to worry about me. I don't want my kids to suffer at school and so on. So they suffer in
and
silence.
there is
Mm-hmm.
another thing. For example, if they are helped by someone, they will come and tell you, I don't want to get my abuser, so I don't want to get him in trouble. Why don't you want to get him in trouble? He caused you pain. He humiliated you. He deserved to be put in trouble. But they don't do it. They feel that if they do that, they are like him, and they want to feel different. I don't know the mechanism exactly, but if we are to,
it starts to be a codependency. So the victim, unfortunately, a lot of times develops this somehow addiction, unhealthy addiction to the abuser. Because let's face it, a lot of the children, I mean, I believe that in most situations they come from very difficult past with difficult family contexts in which they were abused. Because a woman or a man who was raised in a very loving and caring and supportive family environment will not end up in a situation like that. And if they do, they won't stay there. The problem is that we choose it because it's familiar and the familiar seems safe. And because our parents told us, look what you had me do. You're the one making me hit you. You never listen. You're not a good girl or not. We associate at some point in our childhood that abuse with love because it's some form of attention. We fear being on our own. So even if our mother or father is abusive, verbally or physically or both, we end up associating that abuse with attention. It is a form of attention, and children crave attention because, of course, we're not meant to survive alone, especially in our first years, and we're not meant to stay alone. And unfortunately, the perspective of being without someone for a lot of us is scarier than the perspective of staying there with the abuse because we're familiar with it. So, and because we also end up believing there's something wrong with me, I deserve it.
yes, and we are brought up. We were brought up to believe that we need someone. As women, we need, like you said about stories, we need someone to take care of us, someone to protect us. For example, I heard many women saying, I need a man who can protect me. Protect you from what? Because we no longer live in the jungle. We no longer fight against wild animals. You can protect yourself from the others, but the most important thing is to protect yourself from yourself, because we are our worst enemies. When we decide not to trust ourselves, when we decide to judge ourselves, when we decide to tell bad things about ourselves, we decide to allow everybody to humiliate and abuse us. And we decide that we open the door for depression. if we agree that we are just human beings, that perfection is impossible, that we are who we are, and we can just make a certain kind of evolution, but not become perfect,
Mm-hmm.
we are at peace with ourselves. Because if you want to climb to some scale of success, where exactly do you want to go to? When do you stop? And who tells you when to stop? When is the right moment to stop?
That's so true. And I believe growth and evolution never stops. And so the point shouldn't be like a destination, but it should be constant growth and
A
evolution for
journey.
yourself, because a journey of self-discovery and self-love and self-acceptance and self-healing, and the journey of you being your best version,
Yes.
independent of others and of society standards, you being a better person for yourself.
When I broke my liaisons with my depression,
Mm-hmm.
I started to feel joy every other day.
Mm-hmm.
I am used now to find a way of making myself see what has been good today. I know it sounds like a cliche, but if you stay and analyze, today I spent 5 minutes with my cat and this made me feel so good. That's
Mm-hmm.
the only good thing that happened to me today, but it's still something good that happened to me today.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what is interesting? That when you decide to live like that, and when you decide not to care about what other people ask from you,
Mm-hmm.
you have a different life, and you start climbing the scale without even realizing it, without even making any effort to it. Your evolution comes naturally, actually.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Um, there's this, because I mentioned Kathleen Cameron. Um, I was listening to something from her today and said, celebrate when things like seem tough, or maybe you had a goal that seems to take for ages. Just go into deep celebration, because there's a process of unfolding that's happening, and things are happening for you because you're there doing the work, whatever your goal is, whether it's a relationship or an amount of money or publishing a book or whatever it could be. Just celebrate. And it's true. How cool is this? For example, I just love my cup of coffee, and if you probably pay attention, it's kind of dirty because I went into overflow. My boyfriend accustomed me to this. Whenever he makes coffee, he makes like a huge foam, um, because he likes me, I don't know, having foam on my nose and face and whatever, which is funny. And so I did this too. And there's like overflow all over. But I just love it. And when I savor the cup of coffee, I'm fully there. I'm not just having a shot of coffee, trying to, I don't know, do a lot of stuff at the same time. Yes, I do read while having my cup of coffee, or I might be working on a program, but I take the time to really savor it because I love coffee. I say like, this really feels delicious. I actually have like my mouth is watering because I ran out of it. I've had the last drop. So what can you celebrate today about yourself and in your life? We all have it, always a choice. Einstein said that you can live your life as if nothing is a miracle or as if everything is a miracle. How cool would that be?
Or, for example, if you think, what if this is my last day,
Mm-hmm.
the last day of my life today? How do I live it? How do I want to live it? Is it okay for me that I was so angry because one of my projects um, went bad or something
Mm-hmm.
happened to me? And how important is this thing that's bothering me today going to be when I next year or in the next 3 years? will it matter to me? For example, I used to do this exercise to myself when I had when my kid was younger than she was, like
Mm-hmm.
2 years old, 3 years old, and even a baby. And babies are very challenging because they steal your time and your energy, but not in a bad way. So in a way, you have to abandon yourself for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I was used to having a clean house before having a baby. And when she came to this world, I could no longer take care of everything. And I was frustrated, and I started to think bad things about myself, to blame myself for being lazy or whatever. And then I realized my kid needs me now. I have two choices. One of them is to spend my time with my kid now when she needs me, play with
Mm-hmm.
her, deal with her, whatever, talk to her, or clean the house and leave her alone among her toys. What will be important when she grows up for herself and for me and for my relationship with her? That today is Thursday and my house is a mess, or that today is Thursday and I invested all my time and energy in helping her become a nice human being.
I love the cat. Oh, she's so cute.
She's
Mine
been
is asleep.
all the time. Look, the devil. I
It's so
call her.
beautiful.
She's lovely and pretty.
Mm-hmm. She's always invited. Mine is asleep there. In its basket. Um, it's in the shape of an egg. Yeah, and we can actually ask that anytime, right? What's the most important for me right now? Is it that I'm not, looking my best, for example, or is it transmitting my message live, for example, on social media? Because I believe that some women will definitely benefit from it. We hold ourselves back a lot because of that. Or is it the fact that I don't feel 100% ready to start this project or to launch this business more important than the vision that I have? Because honestly, if you're waiting for the moment for things to be perfect and everything set in place, you will never launch a business or write an article to inspire people or publish a book or anything. So there's this exercise that I would recommend. Maybe I'm gonna record a different meditation after this because I feel inspired. There's this exercise that I used to do. I'm not gonna do the meditation now. I will record it later on
Mhm.
because otherwise it might take us too long. We've been talking for so long. I didn't even realize that time flew by so fast. Um, in which, whatever problem you're facing, whether it's in your business, in your relationship, in your family life, just write it on a separate sheet of paper so that it's not inside you anymore, it's out there. And imagine moving away from the problem, like stepping 10 steps back and then stepping 100 steps. But what if you're looking at it from above the house or from a plane, right? You're 10th, I don't know how many meters, probably 3,000 meters in the air, looking
Yes.
at that problem. How does it look like? What if you look at that problem from planet Mars, for example? And
And
in
the worst scenario, okay, what's the
Mhm.
consequence? What's the worst scenario? Are you going to
Now we
die?
have this apocalyptic vision of things going wrong, the worst case scenario vision, that it's never really happening. Like, mhm.
So, and I also say to my friends when they ask for advice, I tell them, imagine that you are your own friend and your friend is in the situation you are in. What would you advise your friend to do? What would you tell her or him? What I would tell her to do that. Tell yourself to do that. Be a
Mhm.
nice friend for yourself because we spend our most of our time we spend it with ourselves. We don't have to run away from who we are because many people have the tendency to find support somewhere else but within themselves. And the truth is that everything is inside. Everything is inside. We
I
just
love that.
to have the courage to look. Coelho is not one of the best appreciated writers, but he wrote The Alchemist. And yes, it is not like a very valuable literature book. But if you remember the character in the book, he traveled a lot to find his aim or whatever it was, and he realized what he was looking for was actually in the place he started from.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that we should think about. Everything is here with us. If I go to the moon, I'm still going to be me. The
Mm-hmm.
answers are not on the moon. The answers are inside of me. And everything you discover in there is okay. You are weak. That's okay. You are stubborn. That's okay. Just find a way to give value to everything that you find in there. You don't have to think, oh, I'm too stubborn. I can't cook. I can't dance. Okay, you cannot do these things, but you can do other things. Or you cannot do anything at all. But it's nice to be able not to do anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to relax, which many people can't.
Oh,
You know,
trust me, I was one of those people, and still relaxation. Yeah, as a clinical hypnotherapist, now I have better tools, but I just couldn't relax at all, not even when people were giving me a massage. So imagine how tense I was. And sometimes I'm type A personality, which means I'm like those people that, how do I say this? For me, everything is a competition, right? As a type A personality. I remember Simon Sinek in his one of his TED Talks when pandemic hit and lockdown came. What he did was, I called all my type A personalities to check on them to see if they're okay because we're extroverts. I'm 87% extroversion, so can you imagine that? Um, and I'm very active. And people with type A personality have very difficult relaxing because they make everything a competition, including hobbies. And of course, now I've worked a lot on myself for this, but I still need to go into meditation to be relaxed or to be in the sea. Floating on the water was the only thing that would really get me relaxed before. Now I can go into meditation and do breath work exercises or self hypnosis, but it still doesn't come naturally to me. It's not like my second nature. Oh, I'm just gonna relax now because I'm so zen. I
but
have to put some effort into it. Yeah.
you still don't make a great fuss about it. You realize that
Mm-hmm.
let's say, your shortcoming,
Mm-hmm.
something that bothers you in a way, and you want to change. Uh, okay, you accepted. You accepted the fact that you cannot relax, and you
Mm-hmm.
find a way to survive with this inability, or
Mm-hmm.
a way to change it, but slowly. There
Or
is
to use it for my best, like to
yes.
use it when I need it, because this is a great resource if I need to have an achievement, like an exam, like writing a thesis for my PhD. I mean, because I'm like that, it also came with a lot of downsides because I'm that competitive and I wanted to be the best, which meant perfect in my opinion. And we know how great that can go. It put a lot of pressure, by the way. Type A personalities are those that have suffered from heart disease, stress related disease, and stuff because their inability to relax, because they're overworking themselves, they end up in burnout and stuff like that. But it was my biggest asset when I had to prepare for an exam, for a demo lesson, since I have over 16 years of teaching experience. So there's always stuff that you can use. And as you said, what if you're weak? If you're weak, it means like there's also strength in you because everything has an opposite, right? So maybe you're, for example, German, because I'm in Germany now, is definitely not my favorite language, definitely not my strong point, because of many reasons, right? But it all starts in the mind. I can train myself to learn German. I can train my mind to be really up to date and really absorb things if I need to or if I want to in German. If I don't speak German or if I don't like it, that's okay. I'm really good at French or at English, and I'm a damn good hypnotherapist. Okay. So I can always I can turn that into a strength. Remember
Yes.
that even if you're sad today, it means you also have the opportunity to be really happy. There's both possibilities within you, and it's okay to be sad and not run away and dive deep into it and allow yourself to feel it and see what's in there for you and what you can heal. Just don't become a masochist out of it. And then there's also the possibility of happiness, just like everything has an opposite, right? If something feels hot to us, I can also feel cold. And that's amazing, right?
I think that all these things come to us because we were taught to see things like that, and we sometimes we don't even know the definition of the word. Because, for
Mm-hmm.
example, when we talk about courage, we think that people that are courageous don't feel fear, but on
Mm-hmm.
the contrary, being brave means feeling feeling that you are afraid, but overcoming the fear. I am afraid of the animal, but I'm still
Mm-hmm.
going to confront the animal. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to run. And when I do it, my resources activate, and if I trust, I win. And when I speak about trust, I always want to bring Jesus Christ in the
Mm-hmm.
discussion, and his and the wonders that he made.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you look at the dialogue he had with the people he healed, the dialogue is always the same. He asks, "Do you trust?" And the person says, "Yes, I do." It is your trust that healed you.
Your faith, yeah, that's so true. Faith
Faith,
is everything.
yes,
Trust
faith.
and faith. It's for me. They can be overlapping, but
The
yeah.
same Jesus Christ
Mm-hmm.
couldn't heal a non-believer. If you don't believe, you're not going to achieve. Believe that you can. If I can, you can too. It's not against the law of
Mm-hmm.
the universe. It's not something that I did that is impossible for the universe to do. If I can, you can.
That's so true.
It's possible. And yes, it is true that we have the tendency to imagine ourselves sick, dead, poor. It's easier for us to picture ourselves like that, and it's more difficult to picture ourselves like rich or successful or politicians or whatever, because we think this is for others. For example,
And we. Mm-hmm.
I grew up believing that money are for others.
Mm-hmm.
I know it took me a lot of time to realize that I could have access to money too. Nobody forbid money to me.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of times we believe that it's not for ourselves. Oh, I could. You can, but I'm not like that. Oh, you're
Yes,
very creative. I wish I were like you, but the truth is, you have everything you need inside you. Nobody is born without creativity or without motivation. I wish I had your motivation, or I'm not that hardworking. Actually, you have the possibility within you to be anything. I remember, speaking of money, and maybe we can have another episode on this, my defenses, because there was a lot of lack and scarcity. We weren't very poor, but
yeah.
it wasn't easy. There were times when things were really difficult. In a communist country, for kids, you know,
Oh, I live the
uh,
same.
yeah, um, not ideal. I drew up so many defenses against that poverty, and two of them were very strong, and I'm still working on overcoming them because I recognize them. One is I don't need much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy with just a little. So
Mm-hmm.
guess what I had? Just a little.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for a very, very long time. And
Or,
the truth.
or rich people are mean and evil.
Mhm.
And you want it to be different, to be good, to be kind, to be generous. So you didn't want to be rich because being rich is something bad.
This is definitely going to go into another episode. I love this. Um, let's get to a closing conclusion. What would you say? What would you tell women that are going through depression, that are having a hard time to seek help, that cannot see that light?
Uh, my advice for them is that if they need support and help, they should try to find support um, by going to a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't go to their family because they will be more disappointed. Families have good intentions, but they have no idea what to do exactly. They don't know. They don't have the means. They don't have the knowledge. So they should find a specialist to talk to. If they don't have money or time, or they are unwilling to go, then they should try to find the answers inside of themselves. They are the only ones who can help themselves. No one from the outside can help themselves. And if they go to a specialist, what will a specialist do? They will give them a map
Mm-hmm.
to help them have a good orientation within their inside being.
That's so
And
true.
there is nothing bad about being depressed. Stay there. Don't rush. Don't feel yourself guilty for not being able to feel undepressed.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy your grief as long as you need it. And just remember that whenever winter comes, it's going to be followed by spring. It's never only winter, it's never only night. These are things that come and go. Just be patient, take your time, be gentle with yourself, and be rational. And as you said before, look at the problem and at yourself from the outside too, just to change the perspective for a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
you will
Yeah,
find.
I would also say, how can I, I work a lot with questions in meditations, a lot of stuff. And the exercises that we recommended here are amazing. As you said, right? Look inside and see exactly what's going on there. But also ask yourself, how can I be kinder to myself today?
And there is
Okay.
something else that works for believers, for people who believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think of God as of your creator, as of your parent, your protector, and you place yourself in the shoes of God, and you see yourself watching your creation struggling because he or
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't like herself or himself, would you feel good about it? Because in a way, we hurt God and our Creator because He created us with a purpose and He gave us something and He didn't give us something. But it's okay. We just
But
need
we
to.
have access to everything, actually. That's the
Yes,
beauty of
yes,
it.
that's everything. And it's not
Anything you want.
people have the tendency to rush. They want everything now. I want to be more beautiful, more intelligent, more powerful, more and more. Yes, you can become, but it takes time. It involves patience. It involves meditation.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot just become like with a spell someone else the next minute. This is impossible. You need time.
Sometimes, well, actually, it depends. Yeah, I believe that it takes time, but I believe it can also be instantaneous. Sometimes the transformation can happen just like that, but it is normally after a very strong emotional impact. You either hit the ground and you say, that's it. This is the lowest I've ever been. and
Yeah.
that's it. I'm not going to be here ever again. I remember, I had friends who just became vegetarian overnight. She saw a program of animal cruelty on TV, and not just that, of how disgusting meat was processed in such a disgusting way. She said, "I'm never touching that ever again," and she didn't.
Yes,
So sometimes the transformation can be like that, but it's true that a lot of times the emotional impact is so hard that you feel like, okay, that's it. I can't stay. Like if I go more down than
I
what
think
I am, it's the end. So
it
yeah.
depends on how
Mm-hmm.
we are built in the inside. Because
Mm-hmm.
yes, for some people works this thing works, but for other people don't. And for example, when I quit smoking, I decided that I didn't want to smoke, but I still went to buy cigarettes. And I remembered when I arrived at the shop that actually I wasn't supposed to be there because I quit smoking. So it took me a
Mm-hmm.
while to understand that I have turned myself from a heavy smoker
Mm-hmm.
into a non-smoker.
It's a transformation in identity. Okay. If you're still identifying yourself as a depressed person, it will take more time, or as a heavy smoker. Or if you're
Yes.
identifying as, like, for example, a procrastinator. But the moment you say, oh,
I'm
I'm adopting this identity of being really productive today, that's it. It's easier. So you just have to step into a new identity. And this is why I would recommend Becoming the One of Kathleen Cameron. She speaks about that. But sometimes it takes time, and that means you have to be patient with yourself, right? We have the tendency to rush things, as you said. And I remember when you first learned, for example, to write, right? It didn't come that naturally. It took some time. For others, it took a lot. For others, it took very little. But be patient and kind to yourself, just like you would be to a kid or to a friend that needs support, and not just, oh, come on, you can do just, why are you wasting so much time on it? Okay.
So, if we are to come up to a conclusion,
Mm-hmm.
I think that we should conclude that depression is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Say that you are depressed. Don't get angry for being depressed. Don't be desperate. Oh my God, I'm depressed. Okay, you're depressed. That's okay. People are depressed because this is the
Mm-hmm.
century. But find a way to defeat it. Find a way to come back to yourself, to who you were. And generally, you can when you realize what brought you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is some inner work to do. And because you mentioned that sometimes we don't want to invest time or money or whatever it can be, right? Think of like, what's the price you're going to pay if you don't give the time and money to your own healing, right? If our car breaks down or if our kids needs to go to the doctor, we would never think twice.
Look,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell women that watch us that actually after I met you and we went through the process I went through with you, I started loving myself more than ever. And one of the gestures that I I have got used to do recently
Mm-hmm.
is not to be cheap when it comes to myself. Because whenever I went to buy something, I would buy expensive presents for my husband, for my daughter, for everyone but myself. And now I gave bumps.
I'm so gonna. I didn't expect you to mention anything. I would have never said that I worked with you on my own as a clinical hypnotherapist. But thank you for mentioning that. Right? How many times? Yes, I do have tears in my eyes now because I love what you said. We're
Uh,
so cheap to ourselves. We would never be cheap when thinking about our loved ones,
Look,
and that includes time as well, not just money. Right?
I know
We're
you
so
didn't.
generous with our time with other people. Sorry, sorry. I just
Wait,
need to say this
wait,
because I will
wait,
forget.
wait. I know you didn't want to bring up this thing
Mm-hmm.
in discussion, but I wanted to bring it because you asked me to come here and give some ideas for people to find support and help. And I think that everybody should invest in this kind of sessions that we had. And if you want, when we meet next time or some, we can speak about that, because people don't know how different everything is after that. Even I didn't know. I had no idea. I just tried it just to check something else. And I'm so very grateful, and I feel so blessed for doing that, because there is an inner peace that I didn't know it was possible for me and that I experience right now. And this is what gives me and brings me joy every other day, to go through a car accident and to say, okay, it happens, but not rationally, emotionally. I'm relaxed. Okay, it happened. And this is due to you and to the work you did with me. And for people who are desperate and who have tried everything and didn't work, I should suggest to come to you.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, I can be a crybaby, and Mirela knows because I even cried. I even cried in our sessions. I'm always all my heart is there, and yes, I love supporting people. So thank you, Mirela, for mentioning that. By the way, a long time ago, and actually not a long time ago, a few years ago, and maybe even less than a year ago, I wouldn't have been comfortable in being a crybaby in front of you and getting all emotional. But that means how that I've worked a lot on my healing. As a type A personality and a high achiever, I wouldn't have allowed myself. I needed to be strong. I'm okay with being emotional. I think this is one of the aspects that makes me a good hypnotherapist. I'm gonna let you say what you wanted to say, Mirela, in a bit.
And then I'm going to end. I'm not going to keep
Mhm.
it longer, but you spoke about emotions, and you in a way you said you I don't know if you excused yourself, but you needed to explain the fact that you are crying and that it's okay. And for other people, this is not okay. But you know why? Because we've been taught to believe that the difference between human beings and animals is ration. Everybody
Mhm.
said, I am rational and this is a good thing. But very, very few people know that all the actions and decisions that we made come from emotion. Even when I decide to buy matches,
Mhm.
there is emotion that leads me to buying matches. All the connections I have, all the work I do, and the way I do my work is connected to emotion. And we are human beings, and we are maybe different or similar to animals. We don't even know that, because we can be a bit rational, but we can be emotional and understand our emotion and help our emotion help us.
I love my emotions, but I've suppressed them for a very long time because I had the need to be strong. You know, all my childhood, I struggled because I felt weak. I felt weak because I was sick all the time. I had really bad asthma attacks. And all the time, all I could hear, you can't do this, you're sick, you're sensitive.
Yes,
So
you're,
I was desperate to show that I could.
and your sensitive was not uttered like sensitivity is something good. You're sensitive. This is not a good thing.
Mhm.
Oh, you're too sensitive. Too sensitive for what? Or for whom?
I love my emotions now. I allow them to guide, they are my guiding system. Okay. So, but yeah, I love them. I'm really proud that I can do that on camera. I thought I would never do that in public. So thank you again for that. There's one thing that I would tell, and this is my last message to the listener on this topic, at least today. It's like, invest in yourself, not just money, but also time. Just like you would invest in another person. You're generous with your time with your friends, with your child. You deserve that time too. And yes, don't be cheap to yourself, okay? But that's it. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. If you can tell our listeners where they can find you if they want to work closer to you with you, I think that would be amazing.
I'm on Facebook all the time. They can find me on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. I also have a site, but it's still in the progress of being better made because it doesn't
Mhm.
express what I want to do. But I think LinkedIn and Facebook is all right.
Perfect.
Are
So, mhm. Wonderful, ladies. See you next week with another episode. I can't wait to film another one with Mirela. It's probably going to be amazing. So I made so many notes today that will go straight into another one and into probably an article. Lots of hugs and kisses. Remember to be gentle and patient with yourself, to invest time and money in yourself because you're worth it. And remember the
take
perspective
it
exercise.
easy. And to take it easy.
Take it easy, yeah. Be gentle to yourself.
Bye.